Estate and Mortgage Show, your go-to spot for everything home buying, selling, and financing on News Talk 580 CFRA.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. So listen, that last segment, that was a bit of a downer, some of those stats, and I'm sorry for that.
But Greg, was it a downer or was it just realistic? Like,
it's
listen,
real.
We could sit here and blow smoke and be like, oh my God, everything's amazing. The rates are incredible. The market's unbelievable. And the truth is, there's segments that are great and the rates are decent. They're not great, but they're decent. And the market is good, not great. Like, it's just the reality of what it is. And we'll weather that storm and come out of it. And we always do. And you know, will we see the COVID numbers again? Absolutely not. But we're steady Eddie here in Ottawa.
That's a great point. Even the COVID time, you would say that was a very positive up time in real estate in terms of pricing and all that kind of stuff. But if you were a buyer, that was a rocky road.
It was actually the COVID months were terrible. Like obviously health wise, but real estate wise, it was terrible because we saw people overpaying for homes. We saw buyers in desperation. We saw, sellers licking their chops. And it was just, if you had to sell and move out of the country or wherever and move somewhere else or go rent or just sell your house, obviously you're hitting a home run. But keep in mind, if most people, when they're selling, they're also buying. Yeah. So yes, you hit a home run.
You're
when
selling
you sold,
up, but you're buying up.
You're buying up. Yeah. So now, coming out of those COVID times, you might be selling a little bit lower if you would have bought in 2022 or 2021, 2 or 3, but you're also buying a little bit lower. So it's all relative. But to say that we were negative, we weren't negative. We were realistic, right? So what do you got that's positive now, Greg?
Well, the one that I really liked, and I know we talk about this fairly regularly. We talk about renters and the difficulty of renting and the challenges of it. So this particular question was more directed towards people that were landlords, but how would you describe your overall experience renting out your unit in Ottawa? And 74% of respondents were positive about their experience.
That's shocking too.
Renting out.
Is it? No, I think a lot of landlords out there if you get a really good tenant, it's like, wow, this is great. I'll do it more and more because it's if you get the bad tenant that you get soured.
I've had some people who have said to me, Paul, you for years and years and years spoke on the radio about buy rental properties and buy doors and all this stuff, and now you seem a little bit negative on rental properties. And I'm like, no, but you're right. You have to have the right tenant. For example, I have some units now that I've sold quite a few of my units because I wanted to do something different with my money, but at the same time, I have some now where I have wonderful tenants in there. They keep my house clean, and I guess it's their house, but they keep my rental unit clean, and they pay on time, and they're wonderful people, and that's amazing. It's when you get the bad one, and it's like anything. A bad apple puts that taste in your mouth and you paints the picture for everybody.
Sure.
But if you get I've had to deal with some horrible situations with tenants, but I also get to deal with some wonderful situations with tenants. I know one time my mom actually said to me, anyone who doesn't know, hasn't listened to the show before, my mom is a realtor here in Ottawa. And she's like, Paul, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm showing someone a rental unit. Is there any chance it's in Orleans? Is there any chance you're in Orleans and you can show it? And I was like, absolutely. So I went and showed this unit. The people that were renting this unit had this place so impeccable and beautiful. It was just gorgeous. And I actually said to them, thank you. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, I own investment properties, and I really love when I see people who treat that unit with beautiful care. And, thank you for doing that for the people that have worked hard to own that unit. So, so if you get a good tenant, I would have thought that number would be lower. I know you think that.
I think it's about right. Because I think there's more good tenants than there are bad tenants.
Sure.
There's significantly more good tenants than bad tenants. And that's a positive experience for a landlord. I think what's hurting landlords today is the fact that if their mortgage coming up for maturity and they've got a 1.69% and now they're having to go to the fours, the low fours, all of a sudden that's going to make them, maybe have to make some tough decisions as to whether they want to keep the unit because they probably appreciate it in value enough that they could take some equity out and or they're going to have to maybe suffer a financial loss on a monthly basis of a few $100. And if they can tolerate it, then great. But not everybody can tolerate that kind of. But if you've got a good tenant they might be able to just to hold on and say, you know what, let's just write it out for the next 5 years, see what happens.
Agreed. And like I said, I don't want to be pessimistic on tenants because you're right. Obviously, 74% of people are really happy.
4% of respondents were negative on their experience renting out their units.
I love to hear that number, though. Yeah. That's amazing. Because listen, we're working with a lot of investors for years. There was no such thing as an investor because you couldn't cash flow positive on anything with the way the rates were and the way the prices were. But as prices have come down and the rates have come down, we're putting a lot of investors into units that are cash flow positive, which is amazing. And it's, we couldn't do it for years, but now they're coming back. And I've talked about this before. A third of our buyers are first-time home buyers. Mm-hmm. Almost when you throw investors in there, you were almost making up, 40, 45% were first-time home buyers and investors. Well, during the COVID years, who were the two people that disappeared? The first-time home buyers and the investors. So we lost a huge chunk of our market. They're now coming back. First-time home buyers can slowly get into the market. Investors are back into the market. So that part of our market is what allows our market to be healthy because as they come into the market, it allows move up buyers to move somewhere and then move down buyers to move somewhere. And it just keeps that cycle going. And for a long time, we lost all that. And it's now back, which is great.
So even with rates coming up, Frank, are you still getting people coming in looking at investment properties? And
a handful of them, but the ones that are renewing their mortgages depends on their scenarios. There's a lot of them that maybe bought it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've got a oodles of equity in their property.
Right.
And therefore, they're in a position where they could refinance it if they wanted to. And set the amortization back up to 30 years so that they keep their cash flow in line. The problem is the ones that maybe bought it 3, 4, 5 years ago where the equity hasn't built up just yet. So they don't have any equity to take out. Can they refinance it and get it to 30 years again? Sure, with the rate being higher. So if you took 30 years 5 years ago, now you refinance it again and bump it up to 30 to try and keep your payments the same. That works for sure. That's one of the options you have. But again, for some people, they just can't afford to suffer a $200, $300, $400 monthly loss.
No.
So they got some tough decisions to make. And sometimes it doesn't work out very well because they have that perfect tenant. They have an amazing tenant. They really do not want to sell, but they have no choice financially but to sell it. And now the tenant is now potentially looking at having to uproot themselves. So...
Yeah. Well, and the problem also when you were saying that, Frank, I was just thinking about this. For years and years and years, if I had that perfect tenant, I never raised their rent, right? Because I didn't want to do that to them. I was making money. They were comfortable in my house.
You were happy. They were happy.
They were happy. The problem is, as things shifted and tenants became a bit more of a nightmare, if you didn't have your rent at market rent, they were never moving out.
Right.
Ever. So you I have one unit right now where I raise the rent every year because just in case they become nightmare tenants, I have to have market rent or they'll never leave, right? And so
that should be the prudent thing as an investor as well, correct? Is doing those legislated increases because you can't just willy-nilly raise the rent to whatever you want it to be.
No, every year there's an amount, and I think last year was 2.1%. So I think one of my units I raised like $35 or something. But then again, to a renter, $35 a month, that's a lot, right? But you have to stay current and you have to stay at market value. If you want let's say I wanted to sell that unit and I have a townhome that should be at, $2,600 a month or $2,700 a month and I'm at $15,000. Like no one's buying that as an investment. I can tell you that.
No investor is going to come in and keep those tenants.
Keep those tenants, yeah.
They financially couldn't.
And you can't, as an investor, you can't buy that unit, kick out the tenants, and then put new tenants in there. That's just illegal.
Yes.
Right? So you can't do that. So you have to absorb those tenants.
Yeah.
Unless you're moving in and want vacant possession and all that stuff. But it becomes a nightmare when you don't do those things and when you don't increase the rents. It sucks for the tenant, but at the same time, you have to keep current, right? As an investor.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what the other topic that came up by a number of the economists is the fact that we talked about it quite a bit during the Elbows Up, which was last summer.
Yeah.
The interprovincial tariffs and how they're still in place and all of a sudden they've all been put to the side. So we still have them, unfortunately.
That's crazy.
And it's hurting our country tremendously right now. But one of the things is on the real estate where they talked about in one province, you can only increase it by 2%. In other provinces, they have totally open where they can do whatever they want. It's time to get our housing market all aligned across the country, because that would be best for Canadians. So again, I mean, there's a lot of talk about it, but there's no action on it. We need, as Canadians, I think we need to push our government to start putting some of these policies in place where across the country we have the same rights for homeowners, for renters. They shouldn't be provincial. We need to cut these provincial legislative ties that really handcuff Canadians, and we really need to move forward and say, wherever you buy, whether you buy in Ontario, whether you buy in Quebec, or whether you buy in BC or Alberta, you're going to be bound by the same rules. And I'd like to see that happen more.
When this whole word tariff came in, when Mr. Trump got into power, I was literally shocked to find out that we had interprovincial tariffs. Yeah. I didn't even know that. I was like, what do you mean? We have tariffs on every province? Like I was shocked to hear that. I mean, it was crazy.
And it's technically illegal to drive across the bridge and buy a bottle of wine at the SAQ and bring it back into Ontario.
Yeah.
Technically.
Technically, I mean, it happens. Yeah. I mean, it happens. But
none of us have ever done it.
We would never do that.
The Beer King gets all their business from Quebec residents. Of course they do.
Greg and I don't even know what the Beer King is, Frank. I mean, how do you know that? How do you know that, Frank?
But, I do know what the Beer King is.
But, even like you even talk about, renters' rights and landlords' rights. In Ontario, it's very tenant heavy. They have all the rights. You go to Alberta,
the
tenants have zero rights. Like, it's almost like the wild, wild west.
It's way too far the other direction.
Way too far the other. I mean, like, Greg, you're paying $1,500. Oh, by the way, now it's $25. Oh, you don't like it? Get out of my unit. That's what it's like in Alberta, which is not. I mean,
that's not fair either.
It's not fair either. I think tenants need the same rights and landlords need the same rights, and I think it needs to be fair for both parties. I don't think we go swing one way or the other. And right now, Ontario's definitely tenant heavy. Alberta's very landlord heavy.
Yeah, for sure. So one other announcement that I saw this week, Frank, was OSFI had their quarterly report, and they're sticking with the
stress test.
With the stress test, which is a bit of a surprise, I think.
Disappointing. They're going to stick by it. We'll see for how long. I think they're going to feel some pressure on it as if real estate markets continue to be as soft as they've been in 2025, which was one of the softest years on record. So. You can sustain that maybe for a year, maybe you can get into a second year, but at some point you got to say, like we're doing more damage than good. So the LTI has been, and the LTI is loan to income. So basically the rule of thumb is that, lenders are lending to 4.5 year income. So if you show an income of $100,000, really the maximum mortgage you should be getting is $450,000.
$450. Yeah.
So that's what the rule is. And other countries have used it and it seems to work. Again, everything they do is all about not doing what's best for Canadians, but protecting the financial system. So, some people will say, well, I agree and I don't agree with it. I agree with it because we need a strong financial system. What I don't agree with is, the one thing that came out of this conference as well is they talked about delinquencies.
Yeah.
We're still at record low delinquencies. So what's that tell you? I mean, lenders got up there and talked about the fact that they have no concern with delinquencies. What was one of the stats? 100,000 mortgages. This one lender said we have 100,000 more. For every 100,000 mortgages we have, only 24 of them are in arrears. Like that is a staggering.
That's an amazing
number. But to us, we say, well, you're too conservative. Like you got to be taking more risk when the banks are all reporting massive profits on an annual basis. In other words, they're taking no risk. Well, we need a little bit more risk maybe so that there's an opportunity for Canadians to stay in home ownership and be in home ownership. So,
hey, Frank, let me ask you, this is probably a Mike Hapke question, but how many delinquencies do you have in the MIC? Is there any, or has that spiked at all? Or no?
So the MIC will have more delinquencies based on the fact that that percentage will be higher. So if you look at mix,
but
I think it's going to vary. Yeah. It's still very negative. It's very.
Yeah.
But you have to look at mix individually because they're not as heavily regulated. Where ours is because we've decided to license it and we got audited for 3 months. So we're very, very cognizant of we don't. What does Mike say all the time? We don't chase deals. We're not going to chase deals just because we have money. Doesn't mean we're going to lend it out maliciously.
You're being prudent.
We're still going to lend it very prudent.
Yeah.
So. But there's MICs in the GTA that have gone a little bit overboard. There's one MIC that does 85% loan to value.
So
they'll do a first at 70 or 75 and then a second at much more expensive for the other remaining to 85. Way too risky in our opinion, like especially in a market like that where there's so much volatility in the values. And
you're not lending to condos in Toronto right now, are you?
No, but they have way more power sales than anybody else does. Yeah. So it's just interesting to see how the discrepancy is. So, when they talk about the statistics, they talk about the major lenders. So we're talking about the big 5-6 banks, and then the non-bank lenders like the First Nationals, MCAPs, who behind the scenes really are. A lot of them are funded by some of the big banks anyway. So their statistics are looked at very, very carefully, obviously.
Have a question? Head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com and submit your question there. Frank and Paul will answer them as quick as they can. Or if you want to give us a call, 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. To the phones we go. We've got Ron in Ottawa with a property question. Ron, welcome to the show.
Good morning. I hope you're all well.
We're great, Ron. I hope you're well, too.
Yeah, I've got, it's just a hypothetical at this point, but we're going to be looking at retiring in a couple of years, downsizing, and instead of going out, because I don't think we want to buy again. We may rent or at some point get into a senior's home, but instead of doing that, we're looking at possibly building a coach home on another family property within the family, and after 5 or 10 years, it's basically with the cost of rent or a retirement home, you've paid for the build of the new home because there's no land cost, essentially. So I'm trying to figure out, is there value to the property if we were to build a coach home in the future? Is that a good way to go?
Ron, that's actually a great question. I mean, the zoning in Ottawa is changing. And, they're calling for more units. They're calling for coach homes. They're calling for all that. So it's going to become more popular. I would say if you would have asked me this question, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I would have said, it doesn't do much to the value of the property. In fact, for some people, it actually hurts the value of the property. But I'm going to change my tune now that they've changed the zoning requirements and where they're allowing 3 units, 4 units on some property, and they're promoting coach homes. And I used to early on I was actually selling coach homes, and it was just I think it was a little bit too early. I don't think that the city was was ready for it yet. But I think it's going to become more popular, and I do think it's going to add some value, but. If you spend $120,000 on a coach home, can you increase the value of your home by $120,000? The answer to that is absolutely not.
Right.
But I mean, I do agree with you that for you to live in a retirement residence or to rent, you're spending a lot of money over the years to do that, and it might be more prudent. It might be better for you to do that coach home and live in the backyard. And I think it's going to become more popular because the city is really pushing it. So it's going to be the red tape's going to be easier. But just don't think it's like a pool. If you go put $100,000 into a pool, you're getting $100,000 back when you sell your home. The answer is absolutely not. And I 100% agree that the coach home is the same thing. If you're going to put 120 into a coach home, can you list that home for 120 more? The answer is no. You definitely won't be able to, in my opinion.
Yeah, you say that, but you know what? That could change, right? Over time, that could change from a standpoint of as we start to see, and like always, as you start to see things become popular, and with affordable house, with building affordable housing is still very expensive because of the land. You eliminate the land costs, and all of a sudden, you've got an adult child that it's too expensive for them. So why not build a coach house and be able to have it? So now you're ready to sell that property because maybe your adult child now has saved enough where they can go out and buy their own home and you're ready to retire. I don't know. Maybe somebody's in that same position where they've got an adult child, or maybe one of their kids has gone through separation and they have a child, and all of a sudden they need somewhere to live because it's too expensive. Maybe we will see properties go up in value if we start to see more of this because it's just too expensive to own homes.
Agreed.
And it's cheaper than rent.
Yep.
So we could see a turn.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point. If I look long term, and this is beyond when I'm here. So the property now, it's got a house on it. But with us building there, say you throw $250,000 into a modest bungalow, probably on slab because we don't need the basement.
Yep.
But by doing this, then when we're gone, this automatically then can be either for the kids to move into, should they not be able to get a place, or simply as a rental property. So when you took a 10-year period when we're likely to be around, then we've paid for the place because of the lack of rent.
Agreed.
And now we've got basically a free place for either future rental or, and I don't want to talk about homes as being forever homes because that's not reality, but at least on this property, when they go to sell, at least it makes it more sellable because you can say, well, look, you got a rentable place in the back, and that alone, I think, should add value to the primary home.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think this is just so new. I mean, I don't think that we don't see very many coach homes right now, but it will become more popular, and I agree. Like you might be able to get more value for that property with that coach home as a rental source. So yeah, I think it's a great idea rather than throw money into rent or throw money in a retirement residence. It's not a bad idea, Ron. Like I can't confidently say that you're going to get your full value out of that coach home. Yeah, but I think it's a great idea, and I think it's going to be more popular as the zonings have changed.
It's still better than rent because he's going to put that money into it, and he'll have something at the end of it. And all the money he would have wasted on rent versus having this certainly makes sense. So I love the way you're thinking. And I think, we're at the end of our show, but we're going to pick it up again next week because I think it's a wonderful topic to talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
Ron, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
I think Ron hit on one of the things that you've always said on the show, Paul, is time.
Yeah.
Like, if you're investing it in time, if you're looking for a quick turnaround and quick cash out, then no.
Yeah, if you want to build a coach home to turn around and sell it in 4 months to increase the value of your home, the answer is no.
But 10 years.
10 years, you're getting the value out of that coach home for sure because you're not throwing money into other things, right?
Yeah, so. Absolutely. All right.
Nursing homes, as we know, are not cheap, right? So if you're older, would you rather live in a coach home where you manage yourself, and if you have to have somebody help you with health issues, they just come once in a while instead of moving into a nursing home? Of course it does. It makes sense, so.
All right. Frank, birthdays?
Yeah, a couple of birthdays. Karen from my team celebrated her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Karen. And my son Stefano celebrated his 31st birthday on Thursday as well, so happy birthday to my son, who's back on my team. So any of my customers will start seeing Stefano's name across their emails and calls, as well as one of our family friends, Victoria Sousa, celebrated her 30th birthday, and we got a party that we're going for her tonight. So happy birthday to Victoria.
Nice.
Awesome. I just have one. It's my youngest, Chase, turns the big 1-7 so on Tuesday. So happy birthday.
He wasn't even born when we started the show.
Right. I know. It's crazy. So he turns 17, so happy birthday to Chase. And we do have 2 open houses. If people want to go see the Clement model homes, 1 to 3. Glenn is there in Russell. 1 to 3 today. 1 to 3 today in Russell. And also Ashley is in Riverside South at 3791G Canyon Walk. Go see Ashley 2 to 4.
All right. If you have a question between now and next show, head over to realestateandmortgageshow.com. Submit it there. Otherwise, have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, and appreciate you cutting me off less today, Paul.
Oh, nice.
Really appreciate that. And please continue to support local business and charities, everyone.